In this lesson, we're going to take our first step into building our game level. Now, before we can start getting in here and changing this empty scene into an exciting looking game level, we're going to have to learn how to import our artwork. First things first, now let's use those Unity skills we just learned in the last lesson. And first down, going down to your project panel here, you see I have two scene assets in there. I'm just going to clean this up here. So I'm going to create a new folder. I'm going to call this Scenes. And I'm saving a new scene with each lesson, so you guys will probably only have one. So I'm going to drag these simply into this Scenes folder here, and I'll create one more. And I'm going to call this, let's just say, Game Art. Sounds good enough. I'll get in here, let's create one more folder, and I'm going to call this Environment. Environment. Okay. So now we have, I always like to keep an organized project here. So within this environment folder, I'm going to open up in the assets I've provided you for this whole project. If you just navigate to the artwork folder and then dig in here, you'll find, let me expand that a little bit, sprite level objects. So this image is what we're going to import, and we only need this single image to create our entire level, which is pretty cool. And that's what we're about to learn with how sprites work. So let's look at it. And when you look at this image, you'll see this is just one single file, and it has all the pieces to our game level. And you might be confused, like, how are we going to take one image and break these apart and start arranging them and building a level from this? Well, we're going to get into all about sprites in this lesson. We're going to see how we can split up this whole environment, all these pieces, and Unity will do that for us. We just have to guide Unity a little bit. So let's learn how to do that. Okay, so now we have our image here. This is our sprite. And when we expand this, you can see we have just a single image. And right now, if we were to drag this in, look at this. That's not what we want. So let me just select this, delete. So let's learn how to separate this now. When we click on this, we're going to go through these settings and set this up so it's going to work just as we want it to. Because we set up a Unity 2D project, what happens is when we imported an image, it's going to default to the texture type of a Sprite 2D image, which is exactly what we want. If this was set to a 3D, it would most likely import as a texture, which is not what we're looking for at this point. So we're going to keep it on Sprite. Moving down, our Sprite mode is going to be not single because we're actually going to be breaking this up into multiple pieces. So let's change this from single to multiple. And that's going to give us a lot more flexibility and give us the control that we're looking for at this point. So moving on down, we have generate MIP maps. And not only is it a funny word, it's not what we want right now. I'm going to uncheck this. So moving on down, the last thing we need to set up is our max size. This is kind of our compression, well, this isn't kind of, this is our compression setting section. So max size image, 1024, we can go all the way up to 4K. So I'm going to keep it at the resolution of our image. Right now, don't trust this. This is just what Unity wants to compress it to right now, as that's what it's set to. So let's always go back and look at our source file. Look at this beast, 17 megs, and it's 4K. Alrighty then. Let's minimize this, and let's go up to our max size, 4096. So we're up to full speed. We're not going to lose any quality on this image now. That's great. Format compressed? Yes. We're not going to be able to tell. So I'm going to hit apply. And what Unity is doing right now is it's applying all these settings to our image. Look at this. Now we're down to 10 megs. All right, we lost 7 megs. That's pretty good. Now let's go up and let's start learning how to break this thing apart using our Sprite Editor button. You'll see we have this whole new window, and this is where we're going to start getting in here and editing this thing. Controls are the same. You can move your scroll wheel to zoom, right click to pan around, or option click, whatever you like. And let's start breaking this apart here. So to do this, if you go to your top left corner, you'll see we have this slice option. Let's click on this, and we have a couple of different types that you can do, modes that it'll slice. We have automatic and grid. Now for this image, if we look at it here, it's not a grid-like organization. Our character was set up like that, so we're going to do that in another lesson, but for this one, it's not grid, it's not evenly spaced. So I'm going to keep it on automatic. And what that's going to do is Unity is going to look at our image and try to make its best decision on where to slice. And we'll take a look and see how it does. Pivot. This is where it's going to set the pivot point on all of these individual sliced images. I'm going to leave it at center because for these, it's actually going to work out almost perfectly. We don't need to really move any of these, and we can always move the pivot if we need to on certain images. And for these little gears here, I want the pivot to be in the center so we can animate and rotate those. So that's all good to go. Next, what we want to do, the method. So when we look at this, it's going to say smart, safe, and delete existing. I'm going to keep it on delete existing, and what that means is when we hit the slice button, it's going to delete any other sprites that we've cut out from this image. So it's going to start fresh every time. I'm going to let it start fresh, and then I'm just going to manually show you guys how you can manipulate those cuts afterwards and then set them as what works best for you. So let's hit slice and see how Unity takes care of this. Alright, so Unity's gone ahead and cut up our level. Let's take a look and see what happens here. So this looks perfect. We have our box around here. That's all well and good. What else? If we click on this, it's kind of scaled around there. That's perfect. Now this object is not really too well. I can see why. It's an interesting object. Lots of opacity there. So what you can do is all of these I do not need. So I'll go ahead and delete those guys. Can I do that? No, I just created another one. Look at that. If you click and drag, it'll create another sprite. Undo. So I'm going to click this guy. I'm going to keep this one. I'm going to click on this. This is going to be kind of tedious, but we got to do it. Click on these other ones. You can just hit delete and get rid of it. On a Mac, I'm hitting command delete. We'll go through, take care of that stuff after. But for this one, I'm going to expand this out over this whole fog region. Going like this. I'll make it a little bit bigger so I don't lose anything. Alright, so that's all trimmed up to the size of our fog here. So now I'm going to, I'll keep it a bit bigger than what it is. And what we can do now is, because we know we have all of the fog in here, you can hit this trim button and it's going to reanalyze with the parameter you've set up, and it's going to trim it to the edge of these pixels here. So that's great, and you can see we have more of these things we can clean up. Let's do this here. Command delete on a Mac. Command delete. Let's clean up these. Oh, look at that. I'm selecting this guy. Command delete. There might even be some more after I do all this. Gonna have to dig in, but I can show you how to see if there's still any more of those guys lingering around here. So here we go. Moving on. We have our curtains. That's all good. Axe. Gears. Perfect. Let's zoom in. Get ourselves over here. We have these vines. Our key. Perfect. Everything's great. Good job, Unity. You have done very well. What is this? Can this be trimmed? Nope. There's some shadow there that's very opaque, so that's all good. Okay, so our whole level is separated here. So I'm just going to hit apply, and I'm going to check if there's any more of those crazy little guys hanging out there. So apply. So that's done its job for us here. And what that's done now is if we go in here, we've expanded this. Look at all this. We have all these images here. Okay, see, there's one of those guys that's hiding still. I don't like those. But we can keep going. We have all these objects now all perfectly separated. This is great. Okay, so let's just recompress that there. And let's open up our Sprite Editor once more. So now we're back in here. The last thing we need to do is we need to know what the heck these things are when we're looking down there. So let's rename these. So let's go back here. You know what? I'm just going to go ahead and rename all these, and I'm going to speed this up. Okay, so time lapse commence now. Okay, and this one here, what we want to do is let's move this pivot point up to the top, because this thing's going to be swinging like this. So there you go. All you have to do is just click and drag that. Nice and easy, hey? Alright, and back to regular speed here. So I've just gone through and I've renamed all of these parts of our level. And I may have confused in the beginning. I named these with dashes instead of underscores. And let me just fix this up here. Environment, keep consistency, right? All about consistency here. Environment midground, cool. And fog. Okay, So cool. So now I'm just going to click around, environment background main, environment midground, fog, curtains. I think you guys can guess what each of these things are. Gold, torch flame, diamonds, diamonds 1, gears, all that stuff. So perfect. These are all named and excellent. So now let's hit apply once more. Now it's just going to save and update all those sprites with the names here. And now we can close this window. Perfect. And now when we expand this, we can see all of our game pieces are all split up perfectly, and we have all our names ready to go here. Look at this. We have our rocks, we have our torches, our midground, our background, and we drag this into my level. Look at that. The level's just building itself. Oops. Remember what I taught you in the first lesson? When you click this, if you've lost where you are, oh, look at that. But if you hit the F on your keyboard, bam, we have that all nicely framed up. So there we go. We have all our game pieces all ready to go. In the next lesson, we're going to carry on, and we're going to start bringing in these artworks. And I don't know if that's a artworks, but anyways, we can drag these pieces in and start constructing our level. Look at this. Oh, I'm having fun already. So anyways, stay tuned for the next lesson, and we're going to turn this empty scene into our game level. Thanks for watching.